afternoon. It's Election Day 2024, and many are calling this election the most consequential of our lifetime. And that's why we're here. You're watching Student News Live, a first ever attempt to highlight what is becoming the most coveted demographic of all voting blocs, us, college students.
Starting now, Student News Live will spend the next 24 hours covering important races across the country, with the common theme being the presidency. The idea for this originates with the W. Page Pitt School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. I'm Evan Green.
And I'm Sarah Davis, and we're glad you're watching.
We're here at Marshall University talking to some students about why they are or why they are not going out to vote this election season.
I'm very thankful that I have the right to vote, and I believe that many people should, but I'm not really educated in politics enough to vote one side or another because I don't really know the difference.
I'm voting because if you want to see change, you have to be the change.
This is Student News Live, a first of its kind 24-hour election coverage for student voters by student voters, and about the issues that matter to them. And we're just getting started.
Coming to you from Studio A in the Department of Communication at William Patterson University in New Jersey, this is WPTV Presents.
We had the best economy in history. We had the best job numbers in history.
We now have historic low unemployment in America.
And we had the best border in history.
We have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
Hello and welcome to this special election edition of WPTV Presents. I'm Aria Capria. Today we are partnering with Student News Live, a national coalition of high schools and universities that are currently streaming 24 hours of student election coverage.
And we've kind of seen some of the traps of AI. There was a case that was covered in the Washington Post. It was really covered nationally where a lawyer went to write a legal brief and used AI. And the AI manufactured some of the legal citations, and the judge luckily caught it because he was well versed in the law. But you know, it has ramifications like that when you use it as a substitute for that human spirit of really doing the research firsthand.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you, guys. This is all very great stuff. We'll be right back after a short break for more on misinformation and disinformation from our guests. Stay tuned into this special edition of WPTV Presents.
I'm Evan Green, and it is time to go live to Washington, D.C., where two fellow Marshall student journalists are standing by on the White House lawn, alongside hundreds of other journalists from around the world.
I'm Emma Johnson.
And I'm Michaela Wheeler. Thank you so much for joining us. We are actually live in the press room now. We didn't know if we were going to have access here today, so it's very exciting.
We didn't. So when we came through the gates and they were like, you guys have access to the press room, that was really cool to know that we would be able to come in here and not only use the facility to our needs, but also to be able to bring you guys along as well. And that way you guys can feel like you're also here in some way and be able to see all of the cool stuff that we've been able to see.
Good afternoon. We're here live in the White House, specifically the press briefing room. My name is Alexander Felix, and I'm joined today by Dr. Hirshon, who is the co-founder of Student News Live, is also an associate professor at William Patterson University, where he teaches journalism, among other topics, and he is the campus advisor of William Patterson Society of Professional Journalists.
Welcome back with Student News Live. My name is Julia Mann. It's the 5th of November 2024, and we're standing right in front of the White House on this so significant day. I'm with you from Australia. You've introduced yourself. Where are you from? What are you doing here?
So, well, it's very obvious what I'm doing here.
Right.
There's an election, the whole world's watching it. I've come
Certainly.
from Sydney, Australia. I work for an Australian TV network.
It's election day here at Wayne State College. I'm Becca Arkfeld.
And I'm Grant Farrell.
Many students and locals are heading to the polls in order to make a change.
The week before the election, we collected a variety of interviews from students and local politicians about the presidential election.
Let's hear from our students on what's fueling their steps to the polls.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I am.
Yes. I am registered and actually have already voted.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
And I just think that it's important to be, especially as a citizen of this country, so that's where I am.
Because I think it is a very important civic duty that we all need to do, and it's kind of the least you can do to have a bigger voice. So
I think it's important to vote because, we are able to and we get to voice our opinions in that way.
A large portion of students enrolled on the Wayne State College campus are international students, primarily from South Africa. Student Catrice Chari holds a discussion on how she perceives a presidential election after only being in the States for a few months.
So my name is Catrice Chari. I am from South Africa. I actually haven't lived in the United States for long at all. I have just moved here, so I've lived here for about as long as I've been at Wayne.
Although Chari is new to the United States, she continuously studies and informs herself on American topics.
Of the things I've seen about the election are from my own media research. I am a person that reads the news daily. Something that I actually learned here at Wayne is that you guys have a graph to see how far right or left your news sources are leaning. That was crazy to me to discover.
But we anticipate that they'll pick up as we roll more into the afternoon. Many voters in Georgia have actually participated in voting through early voting and mail-in ballots. In fact, more than 3 million Georgia voters participated in early in-person voting, and more than 200,000 did mail-in ballots. Here in Cobb County, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Sean Harris go head-to-head for District General. More information on that soon. But in regards to the presidential election, tensions have been high in recent months, with a visible uptick in the amount of campaign gear. In my neighborhood, at least, almost every single yard has a sign on the front lawn that says Harris or Trump. In our AP Government class here at Harrison, students are participating in a congressional simulation where they've split into Republican and Democratic parties, which many of them have expressed is causing them a little bit of anxiety as we move forward this tense week. Here in Cobb County, many voters seem mostly concerned with taxes and civil rights. One voter I spoke with yesterday even conveyed that she was stocking up for the election, buying toilet paper in bulk and other necessities. She said that this was because she was worried that taxes would rise almost exponentially depending on who won the election, and she was worried about her ability to provide for her family.
Now let's take it over to Mr. Matthew Logan on second set to inform us about the election from the perspective of an AP Human Geography teacher.
Let's take a look at how push and pull factors are varied for people of different political preferences. You can see from this New York Times study that Democratic voters tend to have unique pull factors when compared to their Republican counterparts.
We're nearly 5 hours away from polls closing here in Syracuse, New York. Welcome to Citrus TV's special report, part of Student News Live. I'm Cormera Costa.
And I'm Andrea Rose Oates. There are many issues in the forefront of New York State, and congressional districts are being watched on the national scale. Students here at Syracuse University are voting through mail-in ballots and right here on campus.
Our Caitlin Campbell joins us live at one of these polling sites. Caitlin, what are students saying?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I'm here at Syracuse University on Marshall Street, which has one of our polling locations here at Huntington at the School of Education. Now, there is one other polling place on campus, which is at Goldstein, just a mile down the road on South Campus. Both of these polling locations open around 6 a.m. and they'll close around 9 p.m. this evening. Now, as you can see behind me here, people are going in and out of the polling place, and it is packed. I just stepped in there a few seconds ago, and there was a line of at least 20 to 30 people that were ready to cast their ballot. And some were even leaving the polling place because they said the wait line was too long, hoping to come back later when polling places might not have as long of lines to make their voice heard. But we spoke to students on why it is so important to have polling places on campus.
I think it's so important because I had no clue where I was going to go vote today, and somebody was like, oh yeah, it's on campus, and it's very, very convenient. So I know not a lot of people feel comfortable voting online, and it sometimes is better to just vote in person. So I think it's so important to have that accessible to students, especially given that a lot of college students do not have access to cars or public transport that's going to get them to the polling stations that they need to be at.
Now, if you're unsure of where you are voting in New York State, you can check the New York State Board of Elections website and be one of the 13 million voters that are registered in New York to cast their vote and make their voice heard. Reporting in Syracuse, I'm Caitlin Campbell. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Sounds very lively out there. Well, for those students voting here in Syracuse, one race could flip the House, and it's happening right here in Onondaga County.
Incumbent Republican Brandon Williams faces Democrat John Mannion.
We go now to team coverage on this race. Analysts Alex Birdstein and Peter Barry are here to break down these campaigns. Alex, we'll start with you. What can we expect to see from John Mannion?
Yeah, Mannion is a state senator who's trying to make that jump into the national scene. But first, let's take a look at what his resume is. He's a Syracuse native, grew up here in the city, went through the SUNY schooling system, and then made the jump to politics after being a biology teacher. So he's really into education and has now been in the state Senate for the past 4 years.
Welcome to our first global broadcast covering the 2024 election, and a big thank you to Student News Live. My name is Gabrielle Gambuza, and to my left, I have a professor of politics, economics, and law, Thomas Del Giudice. We have Vincent Arroy from Old Westbury's executive editor of The Catalyst. Engineering, we have Patrick Alexander Jones Brown. And on the phone, we have Martha Livingston, professor in public health at SUNY Old Westbury. So you actually brought up about like Obamacare, and I think that is a very critical point when it comes to the healthcare. And I say that because we had Obamacare set up, and then once the 2020 election hit, President Donald Trump at the time he definitely caused a year of a mess, right? So in terms of Obamacare now, like, do you think that this will go into a better direction? What do you predict?
Well, that's a difficult one. I mean, I think Harris would extend it. I think she might try to expand it by lowering premiums with tax credits. The problem is she very well could have a Republican Senate that will try to block her. And so that'll be a struggle. And that's an ongoing struggle for our government, is that these two different branches are really keep us in this kind of stalemate. So it's really going to depend not just on who gets elected president, but how the Senate and the Congress go as well.
Hi, and welcome back to the Marshall University portion of Student News Live. I'm Marshall journalist Sarah Davis, and you're watching the W. Page Pitt School of Journalism and Mass Communications' most ambitious project ever. This is Student News Live. 24 hours of coast-to-coast coverage of Decision 2024 with the focus on us, student voters, and the issues that matter to us.
That's right, Sarah. We're outside the Cabell County Courthouse right now because it's closed on Election Day, at least until 7:30 this evening when it reopens for precinct workers to come in and cast their ballots, and candidates and interested parties swooping in to see the results. Who oversees all this? That would be Cabell County Clerk Scott Caserta, who's here today. Thank you for being here, Scott.
You're welcome.
You've been busy for weeks before tonight with early voting.
Yes.
So can you tell us what that's been like?
It's been crazy. The turnout has been fantastic. The crowds have been amazing. We have had they've been enjoying it. It's almost a jovial atmosphere. And, you know, this is an emotional election. This is a very, very important election to many, many people.
When the city of Philadelphia announced a lack of poll workers and a desire for teen volunteers, my friend Esty and I realized we didn't know much about the job.
So we found a family of poll workers to give us a rundown.
I am the second oldest poll working for about 20 years now.
He's the minority inspector, and he gets to appoint a clerk who's Ashley.
It's always been something that I look forward to when elections come around.
Ashley and Matt started volunteering at the polls at 14 and 15 and were employed at 16. Why should more young people get involved in poll working?
Younger people don't get the experience of knowing how to vote until they're 18.
The more young people that you see working there, the more you're going to think, this impacts me.
It also looks good on a resume too, I have to say.
I am here with Alan Lichtman, a distinguished professor of history at American University.
We're good?
He also established the 13 keys to the White House, which he has used to predict 9 out of the last 10 presidential elections, though he maintains that Al Gore actually won the presidency in 2000. Professor Lichtman, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Pleasure. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about the 13 keys and how they work?
Yeah. The 13 keys don't pay attention to the pundits. I love them, but they have no scientific basis for their opinions about who's going to win or lose elections and no track record. They don't turn on the horse race polls, which are snapshots, but are abused as predictors.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Longo.
And I am Nakia Jean Charles. Welcome to SPJ New England segment of Student News Live.
Currently, Massachusetts high school students are required to pass the MCAS examination in order to graduate. SPJ New England correspondent Viveka D'Souza spoke to parents and students that took the MCAS to understand the impact of Question 2, another state ballot initiative that would eliminate the test as a graduation requirement.
As election day approaches, voters are making preparation for how they'll vote this November. But beyond the contentious presidency, there's one critical question that will be appearing on Massachusetts' ballot that's dividing locals. Question number 2, which considers the MCAS exam in Massachusetts high schools.
To take MCAS just to pass high school is like kind of crazy.
The Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, or MCAS, is a statewide standardized test that 10th graders are required to pass in order to graduate high school.
I think that her take on abortion rights is something I strongly support. I think that she wants to give women more access, more accessibility to reproductive education and reproductive rights, more importantly.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit absurd, some of the comments President Trump was making in the debates. He mentioned a few times, especially in his debate with Biden and again in his debate with Harris, that post-birth abortions were a thing. that's never been a thing, and it's sort of embarrassing to see that on screen.
You do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and probably after birth.
I'm going to be so honest, I'm kind of out of the loop. I watched the presidential debate and the vice presidential debate, and I think the question came up maybe once or twice, and I feel like it was a little bit still in the dark.
I think that more exposure in hospital settings, more women working in medical fields, just to give women more of a sense of safety and a voice, I guess, in the medical field and the decisions that they make in a very tough time for people. So any president that's kind of helping with that would be someone I'd like.
It is money problems, and a lot of times it's hard to afford the types of care that people need. So
I remember recently that was the authority to offer those was kind of just handed over to the states, and I kind of support that idea. I mean, there's a lot of states that are being really bipolar one way or the other, which in any situation, regardless of whether I agree with one side or more than the other, I don't agree with being extremist. I don't feel is going to be a deciding factor on who I would pick to vote for. I don't think we found a balance in that particular area. I'm not sure where it is, though.
There isn't really a balance. Maybe, of course, there needs to be regulations, but maybe, in my opinion, there is too much opinions about what women should do and what they shouldn't do.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gen Z Up to the Ballot Special Edition. We have a lot to cover in this special hour. I'm Shane Scalfaro.
And I'm Tanaya Stevens. We are so happy to have you with us for this special and historical day for many Gen Zers. This day and newscast is also special because we have joined with 100 other universities and high schools working together to bring you full live coverage for 48 hours.
Now, no matter what, history will be made in America this election. If Donald Trump wins, he'll be the first president since Grover Cleveland voted out of the White House and then back in.
And if Vice President Kamala Harris wins, she'll be the first woman ever elected president for a majority of voters. They're hoping that whoever ends up in the Oval Office will address the key issues important to them. As Laura Aguirre has more.
Women's reproductive rights, the economy, more than anything.
Border's huge for me.
I want our country to heal. I want to move past this.
Cornerstone issues driving massive voter turnout in several states today. In battleground Pennsylvania, Philly's district attorney says he's seeing more aggressive behavior than in the past, with his office investigating about a dozen calls from polling places. He's got a message for troublemakers.
We do have the cuffs. We do have the jail cells. We're not playing.
F around and find out.
A couple Pennsylvania counties reported minor technical malfunctions with some voting machines, but voters could still cast their ballots. A judge granted one county, Cambria, extended hours to accommodate.
I am completely confident in our ability to run the elections fairly, and all of our voters' ballots are going to be counted.
Georgia had its share of phoned-in threats today. In one case, voting was briefly disrupted at 2 locations, bomb threats that were found to be non-credible.
They identified the source, and it was from Russia. They're up to mischief, it seems, and they don't want us to have a smooth, fair, and accurate election.
An election that may take a while to tally. Election organizers urge patience.
It's hard to predict when people will be able to wake up and know the result out of Pennsylvania.
I just want to assure the American public that it will happen, but it will be sometime after midnight.
The nation's last polls don't close until 1 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday morning in Alaska. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
One trend from students I spoke to was that Harris seemed to have a much more noticeable impact on social media.
Kamala Harris's Kamala HQ account on TikTok.
Kamala Harris, she has like some Fortnite map now. Reporting from College Green for Gen Z Up to the Ballot, I'm Dylan Muck.
It is now 5 p.m. in Denver, Colorado, where polls close in 2 hours on election night 2024. Hello, my name is Alex Petrich, and we're coming to you live from the office of Met Media at Metropolitan State University of Denver. We'd like to thank Student News Live for this opportunity and our collaborators at Bucket List Community Cafe. While we have 2 hours till polls close in the Centennial State, we're starting to see results on the East Coast, and we'll update as races get called. What sort of things have you been doing around campus to get out the vote among students?
Yeah, so Auraria Votes is a nonpartisan tri-institutional committee. So we work not just with MSU Denver, but also with the Community College of Denver and CU Denver. So we have a lot of outreach. It's actually so we've been trying to educate people about what's on the ballot, who's on the ballot, and what they can vote for, and just really trying to encourage young people to get the vote out.
Thank you. We'll actually check in with Haley a little bit later tonight.
Yes, a critical demographic factor in this election is voters under the age of 35. Ensuring that students are informed, registered, and ready to cast their ballots. Organizations are working to inform on the voting process. I had the chance to learn more on how initiatives are powering a new generation of voters.
As election night unfolds, young activists are mobilizing for accountability. A variety of tools empower them to raise awareness of critical issues and demand change in real time, with social media as just one avenue for their voices. Dr. Perry, a veteran and educator who has dedicated years to preserving Native traditions and activism, highlights the importance of social media within youth in becoming politically informed.
Critical thinkers, because we have so much mass media out there that's trying to get them to think the way that particular person is putting that information out. They look at all sides of the story and then they make a decision. Instead of just, being influenced by social media, mass media, and all that, or what the majority thinks. That's how issues get dropped and issues lose momentum, is when that type of situation. So,
the coming 2024 election is a hot topic for teen voters. With Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald J. Trump, young voters are flooded with new information every day. Teens are receiving new mail every day from both parties of the upcoming election. Mail, ads, and automated messages have just been a few of the popular incentives used by candidates to promote their side of the party.
Since then, we've seen multiple assassination attempts, 2 presidential debates, and even a swap of candidates. It's safe to say we've never experienced anything quite like the rocky road we've all traveled together to get here. And now the tension has reached its apex. Tens of millions of votes have been cast to determine the 47th president of the United States.
Welcome back to UTA Radio News Special Election Night coverage. I'm Mabel Cruz. Joining us live now from the station, we have UTA Political Science Professor Mark Han, who will be giving us an analysis on the early voting results that are starting to come out. Professor Han, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's looking like with these results that are starting to come out here?
Sure. So everybody's kind of reading the tea leaves right now. And so I would encourage everyone to hold their breath a little bit and wait and see.
Welcome back. Ohio Issue 1 has been a hot topic within state politics for the past few months. Republicans oppose Issue 1, making the argument it leads to political and racial gerrymandering, while Democrats say it would ban politicians and lobbyists from the redistricting process.
but the average voter could be confused by the language on the ballot and what it means for Ohio.
Come back.
Yeah, so you're right to mention what has happened in Detroit, and this is why accountability is so important. Again, you've got to be able to hold public officials accountable for the work that they do. Under issue 1, you can't. In fact, they can't be fired for any reason.
Thanks, Cade. I'm Lauren Golden, the news and features editor of The Collegian, a student-run campus newspaper. Right now, I'm standing in the JDM newsroom. I'm here with fellow student reporters who are actively working on several stories to be posted on our website. For the past few weeks, our reporters have been gathering information having to do with the local, state, and national races taking place.
Student News Live is breaking away for an interview with presidential candidate Jill Stein, courtesy of SPJ New England.
Let's send it to the WRDL newsroom.
My name is Brad LaPlante, SPJ New England correspondent for Student News Live, and I'm here with Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate for president. Jill, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
My honor. Always happy to speak with students who really are the first priority.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate that. Can you just tell me, how has Election Day been going so far for you?
It's really exciting. For us, it feels like this is a victory party. This is not a watch party. This is a victory party because we have so more than fulfilled our mission in this election, which is to really lift up the power of the people and to engage everyday Americans who are otherwise locked out of this election.
All of your swing states are still currently in play. None of them have reported. Yeah.
As you mentioned before, right now 198 to 99 gap does look like a wide margin. But like you said, there's a lot still in play here. Swing states are still up and up. Georgia, though, we do project Trump to take that state right now. We did look into it before we went live. A lot of counties still left at 0% voters counted. So we're still awaiting those votes. Pennsylvania right now leaning just slightly Trump, but it is edging out by just a decimal right now. So definitely need to keep an eye on that swing state. Then you got Arizona reports just now coming in there. Trump taking the early poll, but just 4%. So yeah, and as mentioned before we went on break, I'm going to mention it one more time, why Arizona could swing both ways, because it was a surprise state for Biden in 2020, who marked only the second time a Democrat candidate has won the state in almost 70 years.
Hi, I'm Bea Cheer-Mofer, and we're here at Santa Monica College. I'm here with, what's your name?
Jameson Castillo.
Hi, Jameson. What's your major here?
I'm a communication studies and film production major.
Awesome. And this election, did you vote?
I did, yes.
Awesome. And what are your overall feelings right now?
Definitely hints of I'm pretty nervous. I feel like a lot of people are going around the room, but for the most part, I feel good. It's a good night, and it's an exciting one.
Okay.
You spoke about anxiety. Do you have any anxiety today?
I always have general anxiety when it comes around the election. The last couple of days, I do our civic engagement on campus, and so I'm always thinking I lost a little sleep over it. Just wondering how my students would be doing, wondering how this all will turn out tomorrow. And so yeah, for sure.